everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of That Was a Hoot, a Rocko's Modern Life recap miniseries. We're diving into
the final
bits of this round of comics before we dip into season 2 of the show.
It is. It might be a supersized episode depending on how this falls. We got 3 issues to go through.
We're going to talk about it all so fast. It's going to be the shortest episode.
We're going to do it so freaky fast, you're going to think that our names are Jimmy and John.
What does that mean?
Like the sandwich place, Jimmy John.
They're freaky fast? Is that their thing?
They're so freaky fast.
Is that their slogan?
Man.
We're freaky fast, Jimmy John's.
So fast, you're going to freak.
I don't know what
I want to get a Jimmy John's with an insomnia cookie order next to it.
Oh, what if that was like a combo place? Like a, you know what I mean?
Like a KFC and Taco Bell?
Yeah.
It was like a Jimmy John's.
But a Jimmy John insomnia.
It's a great idea.
I feel like that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
24-hour access to all places.
Yes.
Both places.
Yeah.
And get a sweet
They're
roast,
both seem
roast
like
beef
they're
sub.
staples for college towns, at least some that I've been to.
You're a college town.
So, yeah.
Issue 5, segment 1. Earl and water don't mix.
Earl. Get that Earl. Earl and water. Credits for this are John Louis Lewandowski is the writer, Darren Auk penciler, Gary New Daddy in quote which he was a new father at this point in time. That's why the New Daddy.
Nice.
Gary New Daddy Fields is the inker.
Congratulations.
Bob Sharon colors, Dave Sharp letterer, Mike Lackey editor, and Tom DeFalco chief.
This one is the hottest day of the year, and Rocco's trying to put up a new blow-up pool. Mr. Bighead is spying on Rocko as he's putting more junk in his already junky up backyard.
Yes, we as Rocco's doing this,
Ed's trying to plot something, right, to foil Rocco's plans of in relaxation and enjoyment.
Ed's pissed. Like Ed's had it up to here.
Hates him.
Ed is mad. But we also get a weird side story, a B story in this tiny little story here of Rocco's like things that are living on him, because we get the doggy sweat cam and we see that Spunky's parasites are swimming in the sweat. They're having a nice beach day.
Call back to when we've seen the parasites before in a few issues ago.
Yeah.
Rocko tacks up a picture of a beach on this fence that way you can look at it and imagine that he's there.
I would never do that in my life. I can't imagine, like,
it is a very movie trope or like comic trope type of a thing to do. Like nobody ever would ever do.
Yes,
it
pays off later though. He while he's blowing up the pool, all the air goes back into Rocko, and he says, "Talk about your refunds," which is a really weird line, but I thought it was funny enough to note.
Yeah, it's an odd joke to make.
Yeah, he flies across the yard, and this is where we find out that he's got a plan called Operation Earl, that he is going to put forward to get back at Rocko for all of the things he's done, and starts listing off like, "But he ruined my party, and he did this," and like we start
all the flashbacks of shit that we've
almost like he starts like
this.
listing all those things.
Operation Earl is consisting of Ed getting a padded suit, like putting on like almost like a catcher's mitt padded type suit type thing.
Yeah, what are those like? I guess they're just called padded suits, like the dog trainers when they police dogs, they get them in those like big suits.
So he puts on a suit similar to that. It lets Earl smell one of Rocko's shirts that he has for some reason, showing Earl a picture of Rocko and telling Earl to attack. And it seems that Earl has read a couple of books on how it seems that Ed has read a couple books on how to train a dog to attack.
And now Rocko has finally gotten the pool blown up and full of water, and it's small though. And he tells Spunky, he goes, "The pool's only big enough for one of them." And Spunky's like having a heat stroke and just passes out because Rocko's like, "Yeah, it's only big enough for one of us." This is like, what a jerk move.
I know, and like he clearly used water from a spigot to fill this up. I don't think he could have left that on and like hold it and point it to Spunky or anything like that to try to cool down his dog if he couldn't fit inside the pool.
Right.
Earl busts the fence to attack Rocko, and Rocko runs into the house while Ed is yelling at Rocko from a tree to face Earl.
It's such
Get down here.
It's such a weird like concept that like Ed's just gone off the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
He's typically like keeps himself, and he's the one who gets punished on accident. With
it only happens like a handful of times in the actual animated series, but seeing it happen like this in the comics and stuff, it's different.
He's like in army. He's like in like army fatigues. Like he's like up in that tree, just yelling out. It's weird.
I always wonder whenever you see him in that outfit, like, was he like in the military? Like, was he like a Marine or something? Because he's a sea amphibian. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he was a Marine sergeant.
I think he got it from the same Army Navy surplus store that we see Rocko go to later on in one of these issues. Spunky, though essentially left to die by his owner, musters up the strength to run to Rocko's rescue. So even though Rocko has been like, you could die, I'm gonna go swim in this pool, Spunky's still coming to his rescue. While running, he gets goes by the box of tacks that Rocko had used to pin up the picture, and the tacks fall on Spunky. But since Spunky's covered in sweat, somehow the tacks just stick flat side onto Spunky. So now he's like
just a barbed animal.
He's a tack dog, according to the comic book. A little bit of a little pun there. And Rocko pinning that beach picture was just all plot device for this. So we get to this point just because Rocko had to hang up that picture, which makes a little bit more sense maybe.
So Spunky is at this point meeting Earl face to face, but as Earl catches and bites down on Spunky, he gets a mouthful of the tacks that are now stuck to him, and then gets scared and runs away.
And then Ed, frustrated that Earl hasn't attacked Rocko yet, goes to direct Earl and go back over there. And he slips on the dog drill and lands on more of those tacks that fell, pinning the picture he had of Rocko to his own butt.
So then Earl sees Rocco's face on Ed's butt and goes to attack Ed. And after the coast is clear, Rocko returns to his pool only to be stormed on. Then he goes back inside his house.
And Ed jumps into Rocco's pool because he's still being chased by Earl. And he's like, well, Earl hates water, so I'm just going to go in here. Is Earl Ed's dog, you think?
I don't think so.
You think it's just a neighborhood dog?
If it is, I want to throw out this little plot point. Like, I think that it's like he was Ed's dog, maybe had him whenever he was like a little pup. And then whenever he got too rambunctious or whatever, kicked him out, like made sure that Bev thought that he ran away or whatever. So now, like every now and then he's just out and about around.
Like he's just a neighborhood dog kind of a thing.
And maybe Bev doesn't recognize him from whenever he was a puppy, because there's episodes whenever she's like petting him and shit, and he's like really sweet to her.
Gotcha. Yeah. Lightning strikes the pool while Ed's in there, electrocuting Ed. And then Earl continues to chase Ed around the yard after that, while Rocko sits in his ice bath he made in the house, which he should have just done in the first place. Maybe.
Why did he have an ice bath? Just to keep cool?
It's hot, yeah.
Yeah.
It's his option instead of the pool.
He had that much ice?
Maybe. I don't know. He's got an ice maker. What is your scariest story of being attacked by a dog or any other animal?
Whenever I was 8 years old, a next door neighbor to my house had a Great Dane that stood probably a solid 2 feet taller than me at that point in time. Because I was tall as a kid, but I mean, I'm still pretty squatty. But the Great Dane was massive, and his name was Zeus. And there was a point in time where I was playing out in the yard, and I was kind of close to this alleyway that's like right in between the two houses. And there was another dog that was from the neighborhood that was like one of those Bichon Frise, just like a floofy white dog. It might have been like a toy poodle type of thing or whatever as well, just a small one. That was running by, and I went to go see where it was going because it just ran by real fast.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, not Zeus, Khan. That was he had a brother named Zeus, though, actually. But Khan was the dog I was talking about. And so Khan was chasing this dog around the yard. And I was just too close to where they were going, and the little white dog ran and veered by me and like ran past me, and Khan couldn't stop in time. So he hit me on accident.
Oh.
And I flew backwards like ragdoll style because I was just like skin and bone as a kid. And I was unconscious for like 10 or 15 seconds.
Wow.
Mom and Dad came out. I remember coming to and just like, gasping for breath kind of a thing because I was fucking out cold. But yeah, that's probably like the worst, like, quote unquote attack that I've ever had.
Gotcha. I've never gotten attacked, but I hate birds because they always like want to like swoop down by your head sometimes when you're like near their nest and you don't know that you're near the nest. I don't like that. And then running in general always gets you in awkward situations where you get close to animals, specifically dogs. I had so many times where I've been like down a road and somebody's got their dog on the loose and it all of a sudden starts chasing you, and you're like, ah, because you're afraid it's gonna bite you or something. I don't like that. And but probably my worst was not a dog or a bird, but I was running. I lived out in the country for a while, and I used to run down this road, and it got dark quicker than I thought it was going to. And I didn't plan it out right.
Was this when you got scared of your own shadow?
No, I've done that plenty of times though.
We talked about that on the As for the Rest of Us podcast. There was an episode even titled "Shadow is Scared of Shadows."
But this time there were deer out, and I couldn't see because it was pitch black. There weren't any street lights, and the deer started moving and running across the street. And I was like, I'm gonna get hit by a deer, and that's not gonna feel good at all. And I didn't, but I got really scared, and I almost like pooped.
You did?
No,
you almost shit?
Animals are scary, man.
Issue 5, segment 2, Spunky's Kinda Funky. Spunky is kinda funky.
Before I get to the credits on this, first, there's an 8-page story about the ultimate trading card in the middle of this between story 1 and story 2. It's just an ad for football cards. Yeah. Did you read the entire comic?
Just skipped
you
past
skipped
it.
Yeah. I read it. It's horrible.
I was just scrolling, trying to get to the next issue. I was just like, no.
8 pages and then 2 different page ads after that about football cards. So a total of 10 pages on football cards.
We don't have a date on this. I was curious as to when this particular issue came out.
94, I don't know what.
But I meant, like, I wonder if they did it because it was like February of 94, close to the Super Bowl time. Maybe they were doing it because they knew it would come out around that time or something.
They definitely were like asking about like the shape of football cards and what they need to be in and everything. And it's like, well, why don't you go ask Dan Marino? It's like, okay. And then the kids go ask Dan Marino, and then they go to the next football player and they're like, well, why don't you ask so-and-so? And they just keep going. And it's long, drawn out. This is the titular story from the cover. Spunky's Kinda Funky, like you had said. Credits are John Louis Lewandowski as the Rotten Rider. We have fun names again. This
I'm
story. Darren Auk is the Pungent Penciler. Gary Fields, the Aromatic Inker. Bob Sheeran, his usual smelly colors. Dave Sharp, Limburger-like lettering. Mike Lackey, odorous editor, and Tom DeFalco, the biggest stinker of all.
Rocko wakes up to a horrible smell of Spunky. The flies are literally running away from him in the panels, and the wallpaper is peeling off of the walls, and all of the plants are dying. So very, very cartoon-esque, stereotypical stinkiness that you would get from the level of a la Pepe Le Pew.
Right, yes. Rocko decides they need to pick up some industrial strength bubble bath, but not before going to the Army Navy store to get a gas mask.
Is that a thing? Industrial strength bubble bath?
I doubt it. I feel like that's
which leads to, what industry do they need industrial strength bubble bath for?
Stinky dogs,
I guess.
I mean, I guess like if you had, but even you wouldn't do that to like a zoo animal, like you would, because you would probably like mess up their like the balance of their chemicals in their body if you threw some like really high chemical industrial strength. I would almost
be willing to say if they got something that goes on there, like for elephants and rhinos and stuff like that, their stuff is so it's just water and then maybe a brush just to scrub off things lightly. It's not meant to.
Yeah, you don't want to get rid of all that stuff. They're supposed to stink.
Yeah. I mean, they waller in mud to keep cool, but also to help themselves stay a certain way as well.
Right,
too.
I would imagine.
So Spunky smells so bad that the birds are falling from the sky. So it's a tiny, really, really big man. And the sanitation department workers and truck are telling him that he's an environmental hazard. This is a truck not ran by the rats that we've been so accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, the trash truck isn't ran by that. Yeah, there's a tiny, really, really big man in the sky.
I don't know what that's about. When was he tiny before?
I don't know. There's 2 birds and a really, really big man that are all falling from the sky.
Like it's just perspective, you think, the way it was drawn?
I don't know. They all look like they're the same size. The bird and the really, really big man are both the same size.
So that's what I meant. Like I wonder if that's like he's
a really, really small man.
For some reason, really, really big man in perspective is about the same size as like maybe a pelican.
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. They make it to the pet store, but the skunk, who's the worker at the store, tells him Spunky cannot go in the store. That's how bad he smells. The skunk is like, back off, jack off.
So Rocko ties up Spunky, who has a pine tree car freshener around his neck at this point in time, like a necklace on his chain. Goes in to get the soap, and Spunky runs away immediately.
Spunky goes to the park where Rocko took him as a baby, but Spunky gets attacked by a big dog, which didn't last long because as soon as the dog bit into Spunky, he let him go because he's gross.
Yeah, it's very
runs away.
This is horrible, putrid odors. Spunky remembers that Rocko loves him and runs to meet him, but Rocko and Spunky are intercepted by NOS, which is an acronym for noxious odors should be eliminated.
Spunky is apparently a hazard to the environment and almost off of the stink scale. They've got a little measure like you would measure ghost activity, but it's for stinks. So they have to put him in a biohazard quarantine to clean him up, which Rocko seems fine with. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he's fine with anything, though, that happens with this. I mean, it was folded into a Chinese takeout box size thing full of trash.
I don't think he much cares for Spunky.
No, I mean, I think it's there. It's his pet.
Yeah.
It's not an emotional thing. He has a pet. He takes care of pet, kind of. That's it. Yeah. Let's see. They clean Spunky with an environmentally safe, toxic proof, free range bubble bath for dogs, and send them on their way.
The back of that truck that they're in says, "Remember, don't pollute," which is a reference to the Recycle song, which I'm wondering.
That's the Rats, right? They sang the Recycle song like that?
I think everybody does.
Everybody sings it.
Yeah, it's the big musical number. The trash pile is like our Captain Planet, I think, in that scenario.
RECYCLE.
And I'm wondering if that's happened already, because we know that season 2 starts running at some point during the comic run.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to find out
where that is.
Yeah. If this is a precursor to
the Recycle song.
If it's a coincidence, or if it's because don't you PLOUT, the river, sun, and sky and sea, or whatever, you know. Yeah.
As Rocko embraces Spunky, they get splashed by a car that's driving through in a nearby mud puddle, making them both filthy and dirty again.
Rocko's like, we're cleaning home, and he's like, we're safe or whatever. And he's like, well, I guess just safe. So what do you think made Spunky stink, and how did Rocko let it get that bad?
I don't know why, but I feel like it has something to do with the war bond goo.
You think that it's like burning inside of him now, like it's just this nasty thing?
It's just somehow pungent enough that it's going through his gullet and then like going out of his pores and just oozing. Yeah.
That could be. In issue 5, we pick up on the letters page. So they titled the letters page, "That's Life." And I'm just going to read a couple of things that are said in here. We only get 3 letters pages because there's only 3 more issues of that. They decided to pick it up, and then the book got canceled. But the first letters page, it seems that it's mostly to discuss other names for the letters page besides "That's Life." And I guess they had a suggestion, like, hey, mail in like a suggestion that maybe we missed an episode or issue 4, or it wasn't in our version, perhaps. But it's back when the letters.
It's hard to believe this version has like so much other shit and ads
that
and
would have
everything
missed
in
that.
it. Yeah.
But this letters page is back when they would print your entire address if you didn't ask them not to.
Yeah.
To a point where like a few issues later, they're making fun of a girl for living on Ponderosa Street, and they're like, "Hey, did you know that little Annie lives on Ponderosa?" Like, they won't drop it in their comments. Like, it's real weird. And I'm like, oh, like they don't realize that they're just like pointing people to this. The only, like, every once in a while there's a piece of information that's useful. And in here, according to Mike Lackey, who's titled The Future Legend, and Herb Asherman, who's titled The Footman. I don't know if it's because he has a foot fetish or what.
I hope so.
But they specifically say that Lady Hippo's name is Gladys.
Oh.
So we pick up on that piece of information.
Very interesting. I didn't read that part of the ending letters either, so that is new to me.
Yes.
I'm excited to get into the next issue.
6.
1.
Bug.
6.1. Bug out.
I thought we were doing like 1.
We could have. You want to do it again?
No.
Try it again. Take 2.
This is the special Disgusting Parasite issue. And like first add in, we get the Gargoyles TV show starting up, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
Little piece of history there.
Fucking love Gargoyles.
Credits include John Louie, who doesn't say Lewandowski. I guess I figured it was too long at this point. Is credited for story. Ed Lazzolari is pencils. Gary Fields inker. Dave Sharp letter. Bob Sharon colorist. Mike Lackey editor, and Tom DeFalco chief.
It is the bloaty and squirmy story. They are bored. They decided that it's time to move from Spunky and Rocko. And as Rocko is taking Spunky for a walk, so now is the perfect time to evacuate the premises.
They can find another dog to jump on, perhaps.
Yes.
Rocko tells Spunky it's a beautiful day, so don't spoil it by eating something wonky.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
like that. My read the credit of like the shit that he eats makes him stink really bad.
That's
so
true.
Maybe that's where
that's
this
a good point.
Is coming from.
Absolutely.
So Bloaty and Squirmy spot a French poodle, ooh la la, and decide to jump to it when they find a rude French lice there. They're welcomed by Jerry Lemest, part of the welcoming committee, who gets them straws to drink plasma from tap off of the poodle.
How nice. The poodle owner, which appears to be a cheetah. We don't see their head, but we see their body, and it's orange and spotted. And she's fancy. She wears the dress and nice heels and stuff. She notices the poodle scratching and gives her itching powder and a brushing, gives her a brushing to fix the issue.
How frequently would you keep just itching powder with you?
I don't know, but we see a lot of itching powder because this whole like issue, both stories, is very dog focused, and so we get like itching powder both times, and I thought that was something that I don't know. I have a hairless cat. We don't deal with that a lot,
right? But I mean, like even as a guy with a hairful cat,
be careful.
We don't use it like which they don't have fleas, thank God. We've only ever had one instance in our history of having cats that we've had a small flea infestation. We were able to nip it in the bud relatively soon, but most of that was remedied by washings with soap, the flea bath kind of stuff almost in a way from at-home stuff, and then like a fine-tooth comb to get all of the remnants of like any eggs or bugs or whatever out.
Gross.
Super gross. I didn't like it at all. But I'm just saying, like, that was the only instance we ever had. But I never really think of like flea powder, especially if it's like you have to have like fucking animals that have it constantly to be able to need to necessitate doing that. I guess.
Or maybe that was a bigger thing then. That was the easy remedy. Is like, keep that around.
Like a flea bath was like expensive, and you would have to go to the vet or something for it.
Could be, absolutely.
So Bloaty and Squirmy treat it like it's snowing at first, but then get brushed away to a sleeping Earl.
Earl's laying on what it looks like it's like an alleyway, and they climb onto Earl and get met by some tough-looking ticks. Bloaty calls one of them a tick head, which I thought was funny, and the other one's like, "You're ticking me off," and I was like, "Oh gosh, we're going into a bunch of just throwing tick everywhere." And then Bloaty and Squirmy get beat up. They jump off Earl to a new dog.
And the new dog is has German worms. So I'm assuming it's like a German Shepherd or something like that. Maybe.
I don't know. It doesn't look like one. That's why I was like, I don't. The dog didn't look German. It was like a.
I don't know to think about any other German dogs. Though.
Right.
Setter.
Dachshund.
English setter. Or they have German setters.
Maybe.
Did it look like a wiener?
Yeah.
Maybe. The dog has German worms on it, and they're having a big German festival with scab sausage, some types of blood beer, and a band.
Bloaty overindulges and has to be taken to the hospital called General Nuisance Hospital, where we find out that Bloaty is sick because he has a bug or two in his system, according to the doctor. They do like an x-ray type thing and find out that the German worms are partying in him now.
Oh, gross.
So they got from like the same size as Bloaty and Squirmy to like got into Bloaty himself. And then that was it. That was the end of the episode. And by episode, I mean issue. If you had to live on a dog as a parasite, and like that size, what kind of dog would you want to live on?
Oh man, like something that has thick hair. What's something that has thick? What are the ones that have like the Rasta hair?
I don't know. Like
you
a Shih Tzu?
No, like they've got like the really big, long Rasta hair that almost looks like it's braided as well.
I don't know.
I'll have to look it
up.
Not
familiar with dog types.
Something like that. That'd be really cool.
I'm gonna go with. I'd have to be really good at it because I think that I
wouldn't want to go with something that's too thin a hair because then it would give you like, if it has a little bit longer hair or something like they give you more like jungle-esque like areas to like swing around or
like maybe not a Chinese crescent like the dogs with like the bald body and they just like those.
Yeah, like the tongue sticking out and shit. No, that's what I'm saying. Like something that's too thin hair, you might be more susceptible to getting brushed off way easier. Trying to think like a parasite.
Well, I was thinking like
unless you're underneath the skin, then I guess it just doesn't
a really
matter.
Nice like dog with a lot of hair would be like maybe a Saluki or something.
Sure.
But those are typically kept by like very well kept, so they're constantly being brushed.
Or something
and
that's also very thin too, like a Saluki might not be the best because you want something that's a little bit more meat on its bones. That way you're getting more plasma and sustenance.
I'm gonna go with like a French bulldog.
French bulldog
seems like a fun idea.
Live in some of the folds.
Yeah,
sweet little folds. Issue 6.1, Lice on the Loose.
Credits are Joe Cavallari as the writer, Darren Auk penciler, Gary Fields inker, Dave Sharp letterer, Bob Sharon colorist, Mike Lackey editor, and Tom DeFalco chief.
This time around, Bloaty and Squirmy are back on Spunky now somehow. It's a groundbreaking day. It appears that they are infesting a new area of Spunky, and it's hurting Spunky.
Bloaty and Squirmy have built an entire apartment building. That's their groundbreaking, I guess. And Spunky and they want to on Spunky, and they're going to be landlords. They've got a couple of signs on their new building say, "So we stink, and buy this, make us rich."
As Bloaty and Squirmy get tenants, more and more tenants, they try to make the building on the ground look nice. Spunky's getting tore up and runs outside in rain puddle to try and get some relief.
You got that burn. Rocky tells Spunky, "I can't stand to see you suffer. Could you go in the other room?" There's just a lot of like nods to the fact that Rocko doesn't really care for Spunky.
Yeah.
It seems like recently. Maybe he's pissed him off. To which Spunky replies with a whimper, and Rocko says, "I guess perhaps not," and takes Spunky to the pet supply store to get deloused.
The thoughts of the lizard there are, I call this joint the sushi special because it's strictly a raw deal.
It's so stupid. The lizard has been fed Japanese beetles, and we can see that they are escaping from the cage. The beetles jump from the cage out onto Spunky, where Bloaty tries to sell them an apartment.
So while Rocco's over there and trying to pick out a powder and blaming Spunky's poor hygiene on himself, the lizard breaks out and then attacks the parasite apartment building on the back of Spunky.
The Japanese beetles call for Mothedera, because it's not Mothra.
Not Mothra. It's Mothedera.
Mothedera, who comes from a sweater like a moth would.
Yeah.
And attacks the lizard.
They didn't have enough balls. With all of the burning from Mothedera, Spunky jumps into a goldfish tank, I guess, again, trying to get more relief again from another water source. Bloaty and Squirmy attempt to sell their apartments to a goldfish even.
They're desperate to get that money. Rocko gets Spunky out and douses him with powder that Bloaty and Squirmy once again take as snow, because they did that when the poodle got the powder also. And they went sledding, and they slid straight off of Spunky onto Rocko, where they all of a sudden are selling the land to native ringworms, and they are dressed like pilgrims. I didn't quite understand what happened here.
I don't either. They're almost insinuating like I'm assuming because they're saying, Rocco's a foreign person coming to a new land, they're going to settle the new land or something like that. But at the same time, it's like pilgrims have nothing to do with Australia or the outback.
It was weird.
So what is the point of that?
It was a weird reference.
Yeah. I think they were really kind of stretching there with that one.
Mm-hmm.
So now that the parasites are gone from Spunky, he misses them and convinces Rocko to buy him an ant farm, which somehow maxes out Rocco's credit card at the end of it.
That ant farm's expensive. What are your thoughts on ant farms?
My thoughts on ant farms.
I always thought they were cool.
I always thought they were cool too. It seems like as the years go on, they have progressively gotten more and more cool. I've seen some people with these, like, I don't want to say futuristic ant farms on TikTok, but they're newer because it's not like
neon light or something like in them.
It's not like I'm abreast of the situation, on what is up with ant farms, but they've got like the dirt and stuff is not even dirt anymore. It's like blue, and it does resonate or glow with black light or fluorescent. And it also is like pure nutrients. So like you don't really feed the ants anything or drop anything in there or whatever. They're just extracting it directly from all of the stuff that's inside of like this nutrient rich stuff.
Did you feed ants in ant farms before? Like, did you put like a little fruit or something in there? Like a little compost?
You can always drop in like leaves and bits of fruit or anything like that for them to just kind of eat on.
I see. Okay.
That way you can watch them like pick it apart bit by bit and like carry it back to the colony kind of a thing. This is interesting to kind of see.
I gotcha. In the letters page, the That's Life section of this issue, someone points out that Heifer is eating a hamburger in an issue, and they ask if Heifer is a cannibal, and the response is no, he's a cannibal.
Huh?
But I thought that was interesting that they may be implying that Heifer is eating beef. And I think we might have talked about that before.
Yeah, we have talked about that before.
So
because he's done it in season 1.
We've caught
also
this.
Eating chicken around other chicken while they're there working at Chogi Chicken.
Yeah.
It's all just kind of odd, weird placement for things.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're at issue 7. This is the last issue for this stint of the comic runs.
That's
right. Issue 7, second one is called Conned Again.
Credits are John Louis Lewandowski. They decided to give him his full name this time. And he's credited as Fanboy. Darren Auk is credited as Hayseed. Gary Fields credited as Breeder. Bob Sharon, Angry Football. Dave Sharp, Gardner. Mike Lackey, Vacant. And Tom DeFalco, Overseer.
So in this episode, or comic, I guess, whatever, I'm getting confused. Rocko is set up at a Humongo Con. Some of the comics that he is selling there are The Frantic Four, Enter Through the Back Door. Gross. Captain Cootie, Journey into Misery, Sam Steroid, Wearer Stories, No Content, which is just otherwise has a blank cover to it, Tales from the Toilet, Grime Comic, and Goon, which ends up being the name of a comic.
It's a real one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, the next page of Tales to Tick You Off and Hyperman.
He's setting up comics and gets out his really, really big man #1, which is evidently a hot item.
Mm-hmm. And the con opens up and everyone bum rushes in. The line is outside for tickets where Filbert is waiting and loses his glasses as Filbert is inclined to do. Oh, geez. Turns out without his glasses, he looks like Benito, the prepubescent mutant Kung Fu tortoise.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Yep.
Boy. While in line, Filbert gets pulled out and is told to put on the mask, mistaken for Benito. They think he's there to be like the meet and greet Benito.
Yeah.
In there. So they let him in and they tell him to put on the mask.
So meanwhile, Rocko is dealing with con customers who want brainless heroes in tights, spilled drinks from customers, and the customers wanting unrealistic trade values and stuff from the highest shelf, which is just your stereotypical con customers, it seems like.
While Filbert is working as Benito, he hears Rocko saying something about really, really big man #1, because there's this guy who has it's drawn as this torn in half comic, and he's like, can I trade this in for really, really big man #1? And he's like, no, that's not worth it at all. And we find out that's what Filbert's wanting. That's why he's there. He wants to get a really, really big man #1. While trying to get to Rocko's stand, though, Filbert is intercepted by a lady turtle who's flirting with him and asks for an autograph and even gives him a little kiss on the cheek.
Rocko continues to deal with customers that are sneezing on the books and drinking all over them, which would be real irritating.
Yeah.
Even just as a con patron, if I saw somebody trying to do that shit, I would just be like, what the fuck are they thinking?
Dude, yeah.
This is definitely before the con, the way that it is now. Peoples would be thrown out or vendors would just leave now if that was the case.
Filbert approaches Rocko's stand finally, but Rocko, not realizing it's Filbert, flips out about the comic. He's like, it's way too expensive for you. Because Filbert's like, what about really, really big man #1? And while that's all happening, Rocko's like, oh, sorry, Filbert. There's someone behind them that's stealing the really, really big man #1.
And over the loudspeaker while that's going on, Cindy, the lady turtle, sends a message that she wants to go on a date with Filbert. He gets excited, jumps around, and breaks the display of Rocko's comics that he has set up, and it lands on the thief, stopping him in his tracks.
So Filbert's the hero, stopping the thief and getting the girl. But I don't think he doesn't get really, really big man #1 because he doesn't have enough money for that.
Yeah.
What's your best and or worst Comic-Con memory?
I don't really know if I've had a bad con experience that I can really speak on. I think one of my favorite memories was going to a couple of the Cape Cons just with you and Mandy and stuff.
Me?
I thought it was really fun just doing it. I love a smaller stature con. It's always fun to be at a more intimate venue and to actually maybe socialize a little bit with some of the vendors that are there too. And that definitely is a more grounded, down to earth one.
Right.
I haven't met anybody at that con anytime I've been that has been, kind of asshole-ish or anything like that. So I've always had consistently a good time there.
Cool.
I've not really had a worse time that I could think of.
No.
Then one of the best times, I guess, the Philadelphia Comic Con too. Whenever I get to watch the Back to the Future panel, and the X-Files panel, and we had meet and greets with David Duchovny and Christopher Lloyd.
Cool.
Yeah.
They were on a show together.
They were not on a show together.
I didn't even do a meet and greet with Henry Winkler, but it was me, and I had a kid with me, and Henry Winkler just took the time to have a conversation with that little kid, and just how are you doing?
Just being like a nice down to earth guy.
Super cool. Yeah. And the Fonz is the epitome of cool, even as like a 70-year-old dude.
Yeah.
He's awesome. Awesome guy.
So we've got issue 7, segment 2, Bev's Beauty Tips.
Credits for this are John Louis, no Lewandowski, and his title is Frustrated Writer. Darren Auk, Pencils Without Fear. Matt Malley, Indescribable, Inks and Lopsided Lettering. Bob Sheeran, Hilarious Hues. Mike Lackey, Mike Lackey is That's Mr. Tom DeFalco is the big guy in the corner office.
So in this issue, Bev addresses the reader and is giving the real life beauty tips, hence the title that we just said.
She talks about duck sweat because you have never seen a duck with a bad complexion. You rub the duck sweat on your pores, and then you polish it with an industrial strength buffer.
I feel like duck sweat would be like almost, for some reason in the back of my mind, it would be like the same consistency as like the grease that you get off of duck whenever you eat it. So it'd just be really like goopy and thick and just cakey and get everywhere.
Agreed.
It just sounds extra gross. So the next step is to put worm sausages in hot sauerkraut juice with low-cal dead flies, and then put them in between your toes to stretch the webbings.
Soak them in the kraut juice and then eat the sausages.
Delicious.
This was a short little, it was just a couple page little,
just kind of almost like an afterword in between.
Yeah. And my question to you is, do you pamper yourself with anything? Do you have any little tips to treat yourself? Skincare? Anything?
No, I need to be better about like skincare and stuff like that. I don't really do anything for myself other than that. Honestly, if I do anything that's more pampering, it would just be like beard care.
Shave your chode.
Just because, yeah. I mean, I guess does that count? No, it'd be like more beard care and stuff, because my beard has a tendency, not really like dandruffy, but it gets very dry, itchy, and irritated. So if you don't condition it and I don't oil it or, put some kind of product in it at all, eventually it just gets like unbearably itchy. The more and more it gets out, the more full it gets. It just is really irritating.
Gotcha. My favorite self-care is just simple things like clipping my nails.
Yeah.
I love a fresh clipped fingernail.
Yeah.
I don't like it when they get much past the little white.
Yeah.
Don't want to see the whites.
I don't know why I always get in this rotation of clipping my fingernails before I start a work week. So like whenever it comes around, it's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for my work week to start. I'll clip them so that way there's not as much gunk that tries to get under my nails, like the rubber and excess stuff. Makes sense that way. But there's also like materials that I'll use that I need to like pick off to like pull something through whenever I'm like running this like poly material like off of some of the stuff that I tack down.
Yeah.
And whenever I do that, it makes it difficult to pluck it off because I have like not much nail there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Huh.
So we go on to issue 3 or issue 7.3.
Yeah, this is our only point threer.
This is the only point through. I'll never go camping again.
Credits are John Louis, script, Darren Auk, penciler, Gary Fields, inker, Bob Sharon, colorist, Dave Sharp, letterer, Mike Lackey, camp counselor, and Tom DeFalco Jr. woodchuck.
So in this one, we open up with Rocko and Heifer watching snail races when lightning strikes outside and power goes out to the house.
Rocko lights a candle and brings some blankets down, just, in case they get cold. And they decide to tell some stories to pass the time because it looks like the power's out in the neighborhood.
Yeah, so Rocko tells a tale of his first camping trip to the Toad Hollow Wood.
He had to gather firewood and felt like someone was following him while he was doing that. And as the story gets suspenseful, there's a knock at Rocco's door.
Ooh, it's Mr. Bighead checking on them, but only because Bev asked him to, not because he wants to.
He doesn't really care.
Not at all.
So once Bighead leaves, Rocko continues his story about collecting the wood, which seems like this is It's like collecting the wood. And he he turns around while he's doing that, and he runs into the quote unquote branch manager, which I loved, of Toad Hollow, who is a scary tree, who tells him that he can't burn the tree's twiggy tykes, which are, I guess, the twigs.
Little twig children.
Yeah, the twig tykes.
Rocko runs away, scared, and because he can't return to the campsite without wood, he starts to collect again, but gets scared because he gets touched by the branch of a tree.
He goes back to the campsite finally, but they laugh at him, and he goes back out to get wood again. These people that he's camping with, they don't seem very friendly. I don't know where he got these friends. This time the tree grabs him and threatens to chop him up, but Rocko falls from the brittle tree monster's hand and runs away with only a splinter in his finger.
So, question for you. How would a tree chop him up?
I guess he'd have to get an axe, wouldn't he?
Yeah. You know what I mean?
It seems like an empty
makes
threat.
No sense. If anything, it'd be like, I will impale you with one of these sticks.
Yeah, that seems more of a...
limbs.
Yeah.
I don't know what I meant by that. After returning to the campsite again, one of the others goes to get wood, brings back wood, part of which looks like the tree monster's arms. The splinter that Rocko had moves when it gets close to the arm.
So they decide to burn the wood, obviously, and the smoke in that fire, it is the monster, the tree monster, and it says "Booga Wooga Ooga," and that's why Rocko will never go camping again.
It reminds me of Booga Wooga Ooga always reminds me of the onomatopoeia that Eustace says on Courage the Cowardly Dog.
I think
anytime he tries to
boogie woogie choo choo train.
No, not that. So back in the house, the lights come back on, and Rocko shows Heifer the splinter in a jar. And the table it is sitting on comes to life and attacks them as they run out of the house. I'm assuming presumably made out of the same tree that is now like sentiently come to life.
Like how did Rocko intentionally build a table out of the haunted tree, or did that all just...
I don't know. He would have had to have picked up more wood on the way out because the only wood that we'd seen was burnt, except for the splinter.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming he picked up more wood and was just like, yeah, sure, haunted tree, make a table.
Right. Do you have a favorite scary story to tell in the dark?
No, I actually... something that me and Betty have a tendency to do quite often because she really enjoys it is go camping. I might have talked about this before.
You've talked about camping, yeah.
So we'll just take the blanket, throw it over the couch, or make, a faux tent, if you will, inside of the living room. A faux tent. And we'll go camping or whatever. So one of the newer iterations of that is we've started telling each other stories while we're camping, kind of a thing. So I will just make up dumb little goofy ghost stories to try and not necessarily scare, but just like little element of like spooky, just for like a little 3-year-old, that kind of a thing.
For sure.
But I guess I would say those are my favorite to tell. I don't have an individual one that I can pinpoint because I make them up off the cuff every single time.
My favorite ones are the really dumb ones where you got like I got you where I want you, and now I'm gonna eat you. And it's the like skeleton that's like got the booger. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where he's gonna eat the booger, and then and then like
you know what?
And then what are they like? What are the ones on the log? And they say when the log rolls over, we're gonna fall in, and it's a turd in the toilet, and there's something.
I don't know. These are all like campfire songs.
No, they're not songs. They're neither one of them have I ever heard as a song. I've heard them both as stories.
I've not heard this log one, so I don't know what that is.
It's the same kind of concept where you're in a house. They're in a house. They're kids, and they hear when the log rolls over, we're gonna fall in.
You're making it sound like a song.
Well, it's just a mantra. I don't know. It's like
a mantra.
They're not singing the song.
It's a chant.
It's a chant.
Is this like Candyman?
It's like a chant. Yeah, it's definitely like a chant. And then they go to the bathroom and they see that it's like these like flies on a turd or something, and they're do that. So in the That's Life notes section, the letters, the only special thing is they announce that this is the last issue. They don't say why. They pick up letters, and 3 issues later, they stop it. And so this is the end of Marvel's run of Rocko's Modern Life.
Yeah.
We'll pick up next episode with the first few episodes of
do 2 at a time again.
So we'll do episode 1 and 2 if you want to do your homework prior to. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Just search for Volume 2 on Paramount Plus and watch along with us on there. And yeah, like you said, we'll see you in just a couple weeks. And as always, remember that podcast day is a very dangerous day.
This has been an IFNZ production.